This episode is sponsored by UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics. UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics and the UPMC Sports Medicine Concussion Program are proud to support youth sports across our region and proud to sponsor the high school football preview show on the Mirror TV YouTube channel. To learn more about their board-certified orthopedic surgeons, their specially trained concussion management experts, and the wide range of orthopedic conditions they treat, visit upmcaltoona.com/ortho. To schedule an appointment in one of their offices in Hollidaysburg, Ebensburg, or Bedford, call 814-889-3600. That's 814-889-3600. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another special edition of the High School Football Show here on Mirror TV on YouTube. We are down to the nitty-gritty here, semifinals across the state. We got two teams from the Mirror coverage area that are still playing, one from outside the area, and we are especially excited to be joined by Penn Cambria coach Nick Felus. I'm not going to call him by his brother's name. Nick Felus here, who's played two of these teams that Mike's going to talk to him about. We're going to ask him a little bit first about the Penn Cambria season, but we also wanted to schmooze him. That's why we have our Penn Cambria stuff out here. Because Penn Cambria is one of those schools that sent us stuff.
Who didn't?
Not that we're talking about the three schools, Central Cambria, Portage, Altoona, that did not send us stuff this week. But hey, there's always next year. But anyways, Mike, you want to start the Q&A here a little bit before we delve into these semifinal plays?
Well, just a really another solid year of improvement at Penn Cambria. You know, you guys took the first step last year making the playoffs, and then this year to win down at Tyrone in a game that you had lost the year before. Just talk about what it meant to make the district championship game and make that progress up at Penn Cambria.
Obviously, it's a big thing for our program, our community, our school, district, and everything. The work we've put in. Our kids have really bought into the systems offensively, defensively, and most importantly, they really bought into building the culture and doing some things that you need to do in order to play in the postseason. So, you know, the kids, hats off to the kids. They really followed the plan. They executed the plan. This year is a tribute to not just their hard work in the offseason this year, but it's a 3-year culmination. Our goal as a staff when we first took over was we wanted to play for a district championship in year 3, and we were there this year. Obviously, we didn't play as well as we would have liked to play, but it's part of the process. You could see improvements from our kids. You could see that we're a program on the rise. We have a lot of good players returning, but this year, hats off to the kids and the coaching staff and the hard work. Support from our community has been second to none. Support from our administration, our school board. It's just a great small town football atmosphere, especially this year since we had some success. Back to this season, we had a tough stretch there where we lost 3 games in a row. We played some tough teams. Laurel Highlands is one of the toughest small school conferences in the state of Pennsylvania. So each week is going to be a battle, and we faced some rough waters there for a couple weeks. But to see our kids bounce back, have a chance to go to Tyrone, win a playoff game. It's been a long time since Penn Cambria's had a chance to win a playoff game.
And you won a road playoff.
And we did, we won a road playoff game, which is even tougher against a very good team and a well-coached team from Tyrone. So it was just a very good year for us. We're not finished yet. We still have some work to do. We know what our goals are going to be for next year, and I think our kids understand the work that needs to be put in for us to go further next year.
How are your numbers at the junior high level? Do you feel like you're going to, those guys are graduating, you got 12th graders graduating, you got enough coming in for your 9th and 10th graders that it's going to give you some depth.
Yeah, we have about 22 to 23 8th graders coming up through the program, and they've had some success, so they understand the system. But we lose a couple key seniors, and we're going to miss those guys obviously every year. But the nucleus of our team, juniors, sophomores, we played a couple freshmen this year that you saw. So I think player development wise, we're right where we want to be. We're trying to get more experience from younger kids throughout the season. That way, each year is not necessarily a rebuild. Sometimes if you have a senior laden team, then you don't get enough underclassmen playing time, then it seems like you're starting over every year. We're trying to really focus on player development, and I think we've done that the last couple of years. The first year we got there, we played a lot of freshmen. They took their lumps, that we had some tough times, but those freshmen this year, Garrett Harold, Zach Grove, Mason Raymond, Andy Weiland, we're all 2-year starters, and this being their 3rd year to start was really a big difference for us.
Yeah, and wow, it's if you think back to the year before you got there, when your brother John Franco was there, they were just running the ball on every play. So, to go and do the overhaul completely of the way the offense is run. I mean, the kids have really bought into that, and it's impressive to do that turnaround so quickly, to go from, not to say that your brothers wasn't working, they were doing well that year too, but to just shift like they have. And it's a completely different Penn Cambria team.
They had that redhead kid, was it Derek Brown?
Derek Brown, very good running back.
Kalis, your wide receiver,
Jake
was his quarterback, and then but he was an athlete, so I kind of figured you were going to keep him on the field regardless.
Yeah, we had a decision to make. We looked at our roster, we looked at what we had, and we saw a special player in Garrett Harold. He proved through the offseason when we first got there as a freshman that he was going to have the ability to take over the offense. And then we had another decision to make as far as the offense can get pretty complex with what we do. So we had to decide, are we going to run a similar, smaller version of what we do with a younger quarterback, or are we just going to run our offense normally like he was a senior? And we chose to run our offense like he was a senior. And I think him getting that experience really paid off this year. You saw in big games, he has the ability to take over, not only with his
PG
games,
yeah.
And that's him just buying into the system and understanding the system, and it's a credit to our coaching staff. It's a credit to our other players as well, because it's tough to buy into a completely different system, and to be able to execute and turn it around as quickly as we did is really a tribute to our kids.
Do you want to go ahead and take the segue there? You're talking about a system. The Central Valley team out of the Whitfield, the last couple of years, astronomical numbers on offense. And just to throw a plug here, my little brother's son played for North Catholic, and he was at the game on Saturday. He kept calling me. He said, they're like a machine. He just says they're running plays where guys are pulling and guys are doing this and guys are doing that. And North Catholic was 13-0, and they got dusted. And I think Central's really, Central's a great program too, and I just hope that this game can stay competitive, because I don't think Central has seen the kind of speed they're going to see. I didn't know if you had seen Central Valley at all.
I haven't seen him. I've heard a lot about him. One of our assistant coaches, Andrew Tomaselli, he coached at Woodland Hills, so he's a little bit more familiar with the WPIAA and that level.
What did he say about it?
He said they're the real deal.
Yeah.
They're the real deal, but like I said, Central obviously is the real deal as well, and they're playing with a lot of confidence.
You had a chance to see Central twice this year. So when you had that first game, obviously that was your first loss of the season. What kind of adjustments did you try to make for the second time whenever you had to play them after already seeing them once?
One of the things that I think people don't understand about Central is how good their defense is. Rightfully so, the focus has been on their offense, and Hohenstein and Parker Gregg putting up huge numbers, and they're excellent offense. But we noticed as a coaching staff, man, they're good on D. That they get after you, they like to bring pressure, and the thing that really we struggled with the second time we played them was they tackled well in space. Normal plays that we would have would have been 15, 20-yard gains. We weren't getting those plays.
Where you're trying like those bubble screens where you just need to get the guy the ball and let him make a play. They can't, because Parker Gregg's over there already making a tackle or something.
But our big adjustment, we wanted to be able to simplify our offense. We wanted to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively, control the clock a little bit, and we weren't able to do that Field position was one area too that we felt like if we could improve our field position the second time we played them, we would have better success. But they were clicking on all cylinders. Hats off to them. I think they played one of their best games against us. They were sharp.
Yeah, they definitely were, and that's the other thing. The weather was pretty decent that night too, and that's another thing we'll have to look at is what's the weather going to be like on Friday, because for a team that does throw that much, it can impact them. It impacted them a little bit this past week where Hohenstein threw 2 interceptions. That doubled his season total. But the other thing he said about running the ball, that's something Central Valley can do. Their running back, Landon Alexander, he only needs 50 yards to get to 2,000 for the season. So, and he's got 26 touchdowns. Now, he doesn't catch the ball as much as Parker Gregg does out of the backfield, which makes Parker really a tough player to game plan for. But the Central team is going to have to step up defensively, like he said, because this is a team that can run the ball. They average 9 yards a carry as a team.
And I got to think, too, Central's not going to be intimidated.
Absolutely
I just don't
not,
think that
no.
they will see those numbers. I mean, it is. Every game's 50-0, 49-0. They've done the same thing to teams. So I thought the one thing it is, I know when John was at Tyrone, when they used to play like the Aliquippas and the teams like that, he sits there and say, he goes, we had to get out of that mystique that, oh my gosh, we're playing the Whippeal team. You had to play them once a year. But I just think, as long as Central's not reading the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette over the last couple of weeks, I would think Dave's going to feel pretty good about his kids.
They have a lot of experience too on their team, so they've been there before in the playoffs, and they have a lot of seniors on their team that have a lot of experience. And Jeff is a 3-year starter, so like I said, I think they could run the ball. They can run the ball on anyone that they play as well. So I think if they can, obviously, playoff football comes down to 2 things. Right. Being able to run the ball and being able to stop the run. So I think those are going to be 2 critical factors.
Too, you would want to do long drives to keep that Central Valley offense off, because Central's a quick strike. Yeah. I would think you want a 12-play drive and not a 3-play drive, but that's just me armchair watching on TV and thinking, oh, I don't want Central Valley having this ball at all.
The only problem with that is if that's not what you do and your players aren't used to it, and you kind of can get out of your own rhythm, and you can sometimes as coaches
run out of bounds here to 12 instead of going for the touchdown.
Sometimes as coaches we kind of outthink ourselves and say, hey, listen, maybe we should slow it down a little bit, play a little bit more ball control. But then if your players aren't used to that type of offense and the tempo that you're playing, then it kind of can backfire. And so I don't expect them to do that. I expect them to play their game because they've done it, and they've done it extremely well. So we're rooting for them. We had a chance to play them twice. They have a great coaching staff. They have a great community. So Laurel Highlands, and anytime a team from our conference, just like Bishop Guilfoyle this year as well, we're excited, and it's good for our conference.
And there's our segue. Coach gave us our own segue. We'll go right to the next game at Mansion Park, Canton, 4-1 District 4 team. I gotta think that's up on the other side of Williamsport, if I had to guess. Bishop Guilfoyle coming down here at Mansion Park. BG was 6-4, I believe, at one point, and now all of a sudden Bishop Guilfoyle's one step away from a championship game. I mean, what did you talk to Coach? What's he thinking about these Canton Bulldogs? They're the Bulldogs, right?
Yeah, well, he went and got a chance to see them in person.
That's right, they played Saturday afternoon.
They played on Saturday, so he saw them in person. They had 5 interceptions, and they blocked 2 punts. So, but they only won 20-14 in overtime, so it was a pretty competitive game with Old Forge. This is a game where BG and Canton are probably pretty equal, and they get the opportunity to play at Mansion Park, which could make a difference. And for anybody that is talking about that, we'll discuss that a little bit later.
We have that segment coming up, yes.
But just remember, BG played at Steelton High Spire last year, and they probably could have won that game if not for a defensive pass interference call on a Hail Mary at the end of the game. I mean, that was a tough pill to swallow for them that set up the game-winning field goal.
And BG still almost came back.
Yes, they did have a field goal attempt then to win it. But BG, one of their early season games where we were like, hey, maybe they're don't have it as much as this year is when Penn Cambria came out and really ran. You guys really ran the ball well against them and were able to knock them off. And you have the mobile quarterback. Do you think that is something that they can be hurt by, or do you think they've developed as the year has gone along?
I think anytime you face a dual threat quarterback, it's a concern. Whether it's in the regular season or in the playoffs, quarterback that shows the ability that he can hurt you with his legs and he can hurt you through the air on third and mediums. And you try to play man coverage, make sure you account for the quarterback. So I think that's something that every coach, and I know Coach Wheeler's going to be prepared for, but they've really developed throughout the season. They've gotten better. It's a thing with the league. You're playing a tough schedule, and week 1, week 2, you're not playing your best football. Nobody is. You want to be playing your best football, week 8, week 9 into November, and they're doing that, and they've been doing that for a long time. What I've noticed too is that their best athletes are playing extremely well. They're getting the ball to their players in space. Rother. We knew those guys were very good players. I thought, when we played them, it was a very physical football game on both sides of the ball, and there's a lot of good football players on the field. We just happened to make a few more plays than they did, but they're a very good program. They're very well coached. They play in a tough league, so they're going to have a lot of confidence. Being able to play at Mansion Park is also going to help them, but they're going to be extremely well prepared.
Well, no, the thing that I noticed, I found out this weekend, is that Canton beat Steel and Hodgepire in the playoffs, and that was kind of like an eye-opener, because I knew they beat the team they just beat that we thought Old Forge is who we thought was going to, and I thought, wow, they beat Steel and Hodgepire. I thought they must be pretty, and maybe that would get BG's attention a little bit more. I mean, at least it got my attention.
One of the other things worth pointing out though about BG is we've talked before about how they lost Hayden Garner at the beginning of the year. They were expecting really big things of him. In the district championship game against Juniata Valley, 2 of the biggest plays were a big catch by Patrick Riley,
our athlete of the week in the paper,
and an interception by Vincent Shafari. And those are 2 of the players that are getting more playing time because Garner's out. So this is the depth of BG in a program like that, where you have kids that, hey, maybe they wouldn't have made that big of an impact this season, but they lose a great player, and 2 of these players are stepping up to help them win a district championship.
Yeah, and real quick, Coach won't say this, but if BG wins the state championship, you can sit there and tell your program, hey, guys, you beat the state champions. And I got to think that looks good on any high school resume.
Yeah,
your kids can sit there and go, wow, we beat BG and they won a state champion. That's how
especially when you're trying to turn the program around, you're trying to take a few extra steps into that level of success that some of the teams that you've played have had. Yeah, anytime you beat a team that's had a lot of success, and it gives your kids more confidence, and we're all for that for sure.
And real quick, before we get to Mike's explanation segment of our show, Mount Lebanon-State College, 6A semifinal. The game's at Mansion Park, 1 o'clock. State College, middle of the season. If you told me they were going to end up here, because they played Hollidaysburg, and that's the game, and I've said this, Mike's tired of hearing it, Dan's tired of hearing it. Hollidaysburg was down 3 points going into the fourth quarter of that game. And we could have beaten them. We should have beaten them. And the fact is that looking at that team there, and now talk about getting better as the season has gone on and everything. But Mount Lebanon, as you and I talked before the show, Mount Lebanon was down 7-0 to Erie McDowell. And the final was, I think, 44-7 or something like that. Mount Lebanon, they're a different beast.
And they beat Central Catholic the week before that.
Which Central Catholic has kids basically going to different Division I schools all over the country. And this is the part we want to get to now, where Mike's going to ask you to get out your notebooks and your rollers and your schematics. And if we had a big thing, we could put this up on. He's going to explain to you why Central has to go to Central Valley, why BG is hosting Canton at Mansion Park, so you never again have to wonder or call the mirror or call my home and ask why these teams are playing where they're playing. People have done that because I'm in the phone book.
Okay,
Michael, tell us.
So basically, this is the 1A football bracket.
Are we zooming,
the
Daniel?
states.
Do we have that technology? We're zooming.
And the thing is the way the PIAA came out with this year, and the way they always play it, is the team on the top of the bracket is the home team. So, as you can see, Bishop Guilfoyle is the top team, so they're considered the home team. Now, the way they're doing it this year is the first game after districts you're allowed to host. Well, in District 6 1A, the districts went the whole way through the quarterfinals here. So BG is in the semifinals, and they're playing their first inter-district game, their first game against someone not from District 6.
Because there's so many District 6 1A teams, we have more 1A schools, I think, than any other district in the state.
So, as a result, BG is playing their first inter-district game, and they're on top of the bracket. So that means this year they have the opportunity to host. That's why the game is at Mansion Park. And also you have to have a turf field. They're requiring turf fields. So that's the other rule in this. Now, if you look at Central in the 3A bracket, unfortunately, they're here on the bottom. That's just the way the bracket turned out this year. And they are playing against Central Valley, which just won the Whippeal Championship. And this is Central Valley's first game against a non-District 7 opponent. And they're on top of the bracket, and they have a turf field. So they're allowed to host. Personally, I don't really agree with a semifinal game being at home, but it is consistent as to what they said it was going to be at the beginning of the playoffs.
Did they do it like that last year then?
Well, last year it was the home team. It was the team on the top was home regardless the whole way through because of the COVID.
But why was the Bedford Central Valley game
last
being
year? The brackets were different. They were switched.
And you can't say like next year. Like I think just to say, bring this up again. If Central gets this far again next year, there's no automatic that it'll be here, right?
No, because we don't know how many teams there will be in 3A because they're reclassifying next year.
That's why everybody got to remember that.
So like Central Cambria, when Shane McGregor was here, he told us they're going up to 3A next year.
Yeah.
So.
And so you just have to get that. But that's going to lead us then next to our stat of the week. You have it down there somewhere before I get to the important part of our show.
Well, the stat of the week this week is that Parker Gregg only needs 23 yards receiving to get 1,000 yards receiving. He already has 1,106 yards rushing. So the PA football history guy on Twitter, he said that he was not aware of anyone that had 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in a season. I don't know. I feel like there's a possibility maybe someone did it, but as far as he knows, that no one has. So I'm going to say that, at least he's joining a very small company if he has any, if he gets the 23
Yeah,
yards.
I know because I'm going to give a plug here. Tim Keach, who coaches in the Holliesburg football system, he sent me a note saying, he goes, I think Parker has a chance to do it. He goes, don't you think that we would have heard of that? And I'm thinking, like my son goes, yeah, Christian McCaffrey does that. Yeah, he does that for the Carolina Panthers. I said, this is high school, but I got to think, too, that we would have heard of a name.
Well, the other thing is Zach Grove had really high receiving and rushing numbers for you, but they weren't quite that much. I mean, that you can, I'm sure you can respect how hard that is to get thousands on each side.
I think what it's attributed to is the players are a lot more skilled now in the passing game because of the work in the summer, the 7-on-7s. So it's not uncommon for your running back, just like Central does, to split them out. We do the same thing with Zach Grove. He's one of our best players, one of our best athletes. So a player like Parker Gregg, you want to get him the ball as much as you can, whether it's on the ground or through the air. So that's basically, what I've learned. I've been coaching 20-some years, and what I've learned a lot through some of the coaches that I've worked under and just some of the things that we've studied in the offseason. When you think about plays to be made, don't think about plays to call. Think about players and who's going to touch the ball. And I think that's something you see with Central, that they know who to get the ball to.
And you got to think that Central Valley probably looks at them and goes, geez, we got to worry about him. We got to worry about Jeff and the Boyles and the Josh Beesinger,
Eli Lingenfelder.
And think about the 1,000 club. We had an opportunity with our quarterback, Garrett Harold. He had a chance to rush for over 1,000 yards and throw for over 1,000 yards, and I think that's something I don't think anyone in Penn Cambria has ever had the opportunity to do that. I'm not sure about the Laurel Highlands. I know, there's been a lot of good quarterbacks, but that's something that I know we're extremely proud of with his development and just the things that are going on. So you can see the league is stacked with a lot of good football players.
Can you imagine if you could get Johnstown to come back to what Johnstown used to be? Because you already have you guys, Central, BG, I'm trying to think. Forest Hills got real good there at the end.
Chestnut
Richland,
Ridge.
Yeah.
Chestnut Ridge, Bedford. Oh my God.
And I think
Somerset's probably going, geez, anybody want
Yeah.
to see if we can move to another? Not to pick on Somerset, but
I think it's a combination of one. I think football's has gained a lot of attention over the last 10, 15 years, and especially the skill positions. You know, like I said before, the 7-on-7s, the quarterback development, the receiver development. But I think coaches as well are putting in a lot more time in the off season. I know, we're putting a lot of time in the off season as well as all the other teams in the Laurel Highlands. So it's a well coached conference as well. So I think you're seeing a combination of players that want to be able to put up some big numbers and win football games, but also you're seeing programs that are committed to doing that throughout the off season and the summertime as well.
yeah, that 7-on-7 that you and I bumped into at St. Francis, I think it was July or June. It was packed.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like a field day at some, high school that's getting ready to go away for the summertime. But
One other thing I wanted to say is, speaking of BG and Central being the last two teams playing, BG and Central actually scrimmaged each other this year.
right.
And so they started the season, and now they're ending it. And I actually have a interview with Coach Wheeler that Dan's going to put in here and discuss that part right now.
It's amazing. I mean, who would have thought back in August when you're just starting the season that a scrimmage, between two Laurel Highlands teams, they'd still be playing in December. I think we both hope that, but it's tough to get here. So I couldn't be prouder to be a part of the Laurel Highlands, and for us in Central both to be there, it's a hat off to both schools, both communities, both coaching staffs, and both teams. So congratulations to them.
Was there anything you remembered in that
Scrimmage that really stood out that you thought, hey, these teams both could be pretty good this year?
Yeah, for sure. When we played them, we thought that they're a really good football team, and they seem to be complete. Now, we've been pretty balanced over the years, and we've been able to run and throw, and some of our best teams have really been balanced. And what we noticed about them, which was very similar to that, a quarterback who was an unbelievable talent, a line that was big and strong, backs that could run around you, run through you, and do some things. So we knew that their offense was going to be really, really good, and defensively, they're able to lock you down. So it was a scrimmage. It was a tough scrimmage. They got into us a little bit, and we were able to throw some counter punches back a little bit in the scrimmage and score a few times too. So it was a heavyweight battle, and I think we both deserve to be where we're at right now, and it's definitely exciting.
okay, well then that means it's time to say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, and Mike makes fun of me,
I wanna know what's the name of the game.
Coach gets in fact, I'll ask Coach, did you have anybody you played with at Penn, Cambria that you could say had a cool name, and you could put anybody named like Spider Jones or Bucky Dent or something like that? Because we have our names this week, and I did because we were playing for Central Valley has a kid named Mason Dixon. Mason, and if I have to explain why that name's cool, you should go yell at your history teacher from high school and college. He's a freshman running back linebacker, Mason Dixon. And then this one Mike might like. This kid's from Ken. When I looked at the roster, there you go. My sons actually had that when they were in second grade, because they used to throw it at my chest there and try to get it to stick to that. But this kid from Ken is named Raiden. It looked like Raider, but it's R-A-I-D-N. Raiden Lyon, L-Y-O-N. Raiden Lyon. He's a D-N tight end, sophomore from Ken. I just thought if his parents would have been really cool, they would have named him Raider. Then Mike actually would have cared for the first time about our cool name segment, him being a Raiders fan. But that's going to do it. We're going to have a show next week, regardless if the teams don't win, because we kind of want to wrap it up.
But they're going to win.
Thank everybody for the stuff we have here, and still give somebody else a chance to drop something off. It is Christmas time. I guess if Shane could have got a hold of, if he knew Coach was coming, he could have brought the Central Cambria stuff to us. Or would you not be allowed to be seen? Would you have had to walk it in with a big brown bag, hiding it?
That would have been probably not a good thing.
And he's still they are worrying about protecting the goalpost trophy.
Would that have been like Nick Loveridge asking John Franco to bring the Bellwood hat? Coach, did you see our Bishop Sycamore hat? Somebody bought us a Bishop. That's at school from ESPN. That wasn't really a school. Some guy bought this for us out of his own pocket to get to the show. That's how much people love our show here. But anyways, for Coach Felus, for Dan behind the camera, for Mike Boydham, don't forget, next week we are still going to have a show regardless there on Mirror TV. Thanks for watching.